Hello, my name is Coers. Today I'm going to talk a bit and to show something out of my practice as an artist regarding books I made and regarding publishing as an artistic practice. In this way you will see different approaches to the media. So I have some example here from publications that range from catalog to artist book and in between, that range from 2008 until a dummy for an artist book made only a few days ago. Okay, let's start with the Positive Profisory, my first catalog, my first monograph, and also as it contains photos of my installations, and I made the concept my first artist book. I work with found objects and language related material. For example, here an installation with things I found in the cellar of my parents' home, collection made by my father of books, but also of pictures, of reproductions of artwork. And as this were quite large-scale installations, I used here the medium of the book also as an container for images and texts, and also a documentary media. I did a long series on book installations using my own book, but also out of libraries, in which I misused in a kind of manner for architectonical and installative purposes books. And in this project I invited people to participate and to borrow books from 4 different libraries and putting it into my disposal. And then I built an installation out of this borrowed books, were then given back as an interim storage. The lockers in the public state library featured, and I chose this image for the cover of the entire book, the Positive Profisory, which means interim storage. So the book worked also as a kind of interim storage for pictures and texts. And the theme of the public space and of lockers continued to interest me. I created a show some years later and invited 18 artists from Berlin and Munich to exhibit in the lockers of 4 different museums in Munich. And in this case I designed the accompanying book, the resulting artist book myself. I consider it an artist book, even if it's kind of catalog as well. I played with images, and I played also with aspect of temporality. For example, here I chose images out from a film, The Hustler, with Paul Newman, and ordered in a video-like sequence in the introductory text. And the different locations were here put together like chapters with photos of the different locations in a tour that went through all the venues. As model for the format served a guidebook of the Limbach House that had the same format here, and so in this kind it was also an appropriation of a given format, that of a museum's guide. One last play with images and numbers here. 75 I chose because it's the year of my birth, so it's kind of a personal approach as well. My second monograph played even more with images. Here on the cover you have boxes of bananas which were filled with books in preparation for an installation, and I featured this because it's mainly containing books, and I featured it also because I liked the entrance that's opening on the cover. I soliti titoli, it's another Italian title, a play with words. It's an anagram, it's always the same letters, but at the same time it's an, let's say, ironic reference to the content. It means the titles that you have used many times, the used title you are working with another time. So as it contains also quite a lot of installation with books, it's kind of a continuation, but also the question how it's going to develop from this point on. One large-scale installation with books with an architectonic structure resulted then in a series of photographs. The books that were used here are heavily loaded with weight and remained in physically transformed in this shape, which I documented by photographs. And out of this series of photographs I developed another autonomous book, Müde Bücher, Tired Books, in which I featured on every double page back and front of these items, and photographed like objects. As I had a hard time to decide what to put on the front, whether an image of a book or some monochrome cover, I made two editions. The second takes the color of the first one, but is of neutral quality, which then I used for installations in the future. For example, here I put them I stacked them like minimalistic sculptures, like mirrors, and I let also the foil here on the books, which gave them another quality and materiality. This is another example how I played with books produced in the step before. So I liked also to have something for working in the future. Another point of departure was a collage of found images in different libraries, and here in the Library of Alexandria I made photocopies and put them together in an associative collage that developed into a main interest in the next few years, resulting in, let's see where I have them, resulting, for example, in a booklet accompanying an exhibition called Secret Garden. Here I worked with found images out of a dictionary of sign language. I have a copy here. It is an exercise book, but also for teaching sign language, but also a kind of dictionary in alphabetical order. Out of this book I produced a series of images referring to the theme of garden, but also referring to language and to the fact that words can have several meanings. So I chose pictures that were in kind of manner alike, like here berry and Malta, and the point of comparison is smallness of the object, here the berry, and here the state or the island. I liked especially comparisons like this, plant and art, and here it evolves something organically from the inner side and to the outside. So art and plant here are in some kind correlated, which it's an interesting concept of visualizing an abstract concept like art. In the last part of the book I featured a series of images which have the content or the topic of image itself. A quadrant or rectangular shape can be used for many purposes, which have many different meanings. And the last, the booklet itself can be in this shape, and it's represented on the last page of the booklet itself. Of the topic of sign language continued to interest me. I made a project in public space. In fact, also images of the garden were displayed in public space, and here, which is takes on the shape of a map. In this project I translated, or I initiated the translation and photographed it of the names of streets in Munich. This time it was not found images, but made images. And the proper way to display it, I thought, was a map combining the actual places of the streets with names, and it had all what is to be found on a street map. Also here a directory of streets. As a map, I used an old plan on old city map that I had bought in the 90s and photographed it. So I liked also the reproduction here of the shades and of the cracks and folds in this process of reproduction. In recent years, I have been displaying these images in public space, and there was one exhibition in this public space of a cultural center. Here I printed images on adhesive foil and displayed them in combination with architecture. And so I featured different concepts, and as it was taken out of this book from the 1985 that was published in East Berlin, it was a nice contrast to the building that was opened exactly in the same year, 85, but has many postmodern features, like very colorful carpets that then I confronted with the black and white images and the concepts. The words here are like on the captions. I did an edition in addition to the little booklet catalog, and here you have 14 pages that are folded in half, and in the first half of the book you have only the persons and the faces, and you can't really figure out probably what the meaning of the signs is, as the hands are missing and the captions are missing too. In the second half you have the half beneath, and here you can put it together and then go back and try to make the connection between the faces, the persons, and the gestures, the signs. In the middle I put this little booklet to have the context, and as a separating element I chose red paper, predominantly the color of the cultural center, and put there a small edition of 25 prints with in the same format that some were also displayed in the exhibition. Also, this year is printed on foil like the prints in the exhibition, so it plays also with the idea that you have one original print out of the exhibition space. So it's like other publications between a catalog and an artist book. In this case, it's clearly an artist book, and an edition, it's only 25 copies. And talking about artist books, there is one which appeared quite recently and plays also with language. It's an exercise book I found, and it's 30 years now that I had it in school, 1990, and still the words have their topicality as regards 2020-21 politics in the US, for example. Here you have the words president, and here you have Democrat, Republican, trial, and this political reference can be made also by the colors used here. The blue can be referred to Democrats, and the red here can be referred to Republicans, and altogether blue, white and red to the colors of the US. But aside from this political, it's also quite appealing, the order in which these words are presented. They, for example, ocean, the first one, quite a poetic, and in some cases there's a Dada-like sequence that results from this list of words. And I decided to not make an simple reprint in the same format, but to reproduce it as a photographed book, so it becomes also an object. Yeah, last one I wanted to show is an edition. Gonna to be. I produced a dummy a few days ago in a workshop with Backbone Books, Claudia de la Torre. Here I played with my own name, Albert. Who is Albert? Wer ist Albert? I did a research in novels and also some scientific books about the person of Albert, and made cutouts that then I rearranged and played with in this publication. I put it all together in a box, and here, for example, you have the different cutouts in quite a disorder. And I did an installation in a small project room, and one of the publications, one of the booklets here is playing with the documentary, but also the productive, the new aspect, as I added another layer of cutouts to the existing material. And it's also about mirrors. It was placed on the door, and it's also about reproduction via enlargement. And it's about languages. I had some French and English and German as well. In other parts, I play with sentence and the involvement into the space, like here. Komm schon raus, Albert. Get out, finally, Albert. and I created little stories. Albert, you have been in the room. Yes. And Albert disappeared in the labyrinthine corridors. So it's about little stories, and it's about the question, yeah, what can this person, this Albert, be? And in the end I have some postcards featuring installations I did on a residency in Schöppingen in North Rhine-Westphalia this year. Yeah, I think I will go on with the activity of publishing. There are still lots of books to do, and one is also an artist publication in which I made a list of books I want to do again, and as in February there were 75 items yet to complete, and I'm still working on it. Yeah, thank you for your kind attention.